Hello, boys and girls. Today I thought I was going to try to explain why a lot of people around the world, I would say mostly from this perspective in Western Europe, are upset with the recent events in the world. I am talking about the Ukraine situation, the presidency of the United States, and the military aid there. And I'm gonna tell a little story about a village, let's call it the world, or the Western world, where everyone lives, and we have different amounts of money in the village, and but we all try to follow the rules more or less. Some people are a bit scummy, you have to agree on that. Some are a bit lazy, some are poorer, some are richer. The richest guy in the town is called, let's call it the Trump family, or Mr. and Mrs. America, I don't know. They have the most money, they have the biggest house. You know, they do okay, they follow the rules. They try to be nice to the neighbors, and most of the family and people that live in that big mansion are nice and well-meaning people, generally. You know, they make mistakes, but they're good people. And so in the rest of the village or town, it's about the same. People are doing the best that they can. And the thing is that during the last 80 years or so, things have gotten a lot better. There used to be fights and burglaries and crime, and it used to be horrible. There used to be wars. People used to die. Millions of people used to die in the world. But even though there are some bad things going on, in general, the town has gotten a lot better. So that is what happened until recently in the village. People weren't as upset because, you know, things are going okay. I think that's about the background. Now, on the outskirts of the town lives a rather scummy family. Let's call it Mr. Russia family. And, you know, for a while there, they were trying to do their best like everyone else. But then it turned out that they were actually criminals. They're rather rich because they can find stuff in their yard that they can sell to people, so they have a lot of money. But they do bad things with this money, and basically the boss of the family is a criminal. He's a gangster. And one night he goes into the house of one of the Trump families, or the villagers, and he burglarizes. I'd like to make that crime much worse, but I probably got censored on YouTube, where I'm planning to upload this, if I really described what the Trump burglar did, because he did a lot worse than that. And here's the thing, well, we're gonna get into that. The Russia, Mr. Russia, is gonna deny that this ever happened, but you can walk over to the house of Mr. Ukraine, and you can look into the house and you can see what the hell he did. He did a lot. He shit on the kitchen floor, and worse. So that's not what I wanted to talk about, because everyone that's sane and accepts facts knows this is the truth. But we're gonna talk about the Trump family's house, that the military aid, because of the bad situation over in Mr. Ukraine's house. The Trump family's house, they of course have a garage, and the garage is filled with stuff that you need when you do heavy lifting, like wars, for example, or shuffling snow, or blowing leaves, or working around the house or in the yard, or if there's an accident, or if there's bad weather or a tornado or something. So you have emergency stuff that you don't use all the time. Let's call it war materials, but in this case we're gonna go with a uniform. So back in the 80s, Mr. Trump, being the boss of his household, he decided to buy a nice work uniform. It doesn't have to be, this example doesn't have to be a military uniform with camouflage. It can just be like a regular work uniform that you use for civilian work. And it was really nice back in the 80s, one of the best on the market. And let's pretend it cost $100 back then. that uniform. And maybe it has been used a little bit for shoveling snow or working in the yard, but maybe it's unused entirely and just been hanging there, so it's in perfect shape. It's nothing wrong with the uniform. It's a nice uniform. Now, since the poor Ukraine family has been burglarized and victimized of crime, everyone in the village has started giving them stuff. And people have been giving a little bit due to how rich they are, how much money they have. So some neighbors have been giving more. If they live closer, maybe they give more stuff. More expensive items to the family, but they need the stuff. Everyone knows that because they're in a bad situation. Something bad has happened to them. So the Trump household, they decide to give this old 80s uniform to the Ukraine family's household. They give it for free because they need help, because they are a good neighbor. At least they're trying to be a good neighbor. They have their fault. They're a little bit corrupt. Not the most corrupt in the world. They're definitely not as corrupt as the Mr. Russia household in the outskirts of the town. The criminals. No, not at all. Now, here's the thing why people are upset. When I get invited into press conferences or parties, or I talk to my neighbors and the other villagers of the town, I'm gonna say that, listen, this uniform that I donated to Mr. Ukraine, it cost me $100 back in the 80s. And people will go, yeah, but listen, there are newer, better uniforms, work uniforms to buy on the market. And it's been sitting in your garage for over 30 years. Surely it can't still be worth $100. Yeah, it is. And you know what? It's not only is it worth $100 still, because I say so. You might say it's not. Okay, I've been considering getting rid of this uniform, going to the shelter or the second-hand clothes store and giving it away. But then I would have to take my car and I would have to ride down to the shelter, and I had to waste time and gas money to get rid of it. So it would cost me time and energy and effort to get rid of it. But instead I just walked over to Mr. Ukraine's house and handed it over. That was easier and cheaper for me. Sure, that was an advantage, but I'm not gonna acknowledge that. Then I'm gonna say that, listen, because money, $100 back in the 80s, that is probably, I don't know what the inflation is, but let's say it has doubled the value of money. So in fact, I'm gonna count up the value of this uniform and say it's actually worth today $200. And then people are gonna start, like, this is clothes from the 80s. You're not gonna get no one's gonna buy that from you for $200. There are much better uniforms out there on the market now. You have better uniforms in your garage already. And not only that, you have 99 other uniforms like that stuffed in your garage that you're hoarding in case there's a snowstorm on your yard. You don't need that uniform. You're planning to get rid of it and get a better uniform. Yeah, but I still gonna brag and say this uniform is worth $200. And then I'm gonna say I give the most expensive item. Yeah, but you know what? All in all the other neighbors that are as rich like you are in total, they also gave stuff worth $100. So how about that? Or actually $200 in this example. So like, you're very generous. That is true. Giving this nice, almost new uniform from the 80s, that is very nice of you, but it's the decent thing. That is what you do. No, yeah, I gave the most expensive item and everyone else needs to give more. Well, so far in this example, you're a bit of a douche. But now, if you escalate this and say, not only am I gonna say this, I'm also gonna say I have given uniforms worth $1,000, 5 times the magical imaginary value that I've come up with somehow. I multiply that value by 5 times. That is what the household leader of the Mr. Trump family is doing. He's talking about 500 billion. These are facts that can be checked. It's not true, it's a lie. So I have given $1,000 worth uniform, and now the Ukraine family that is in a bad situation, they are going to have to pay me $1,000 for the uniform. This is why the rest of the people in the village of Trumpistan is furious with the Trump household. I hope this example makes it easier to understand. I could go on and talk about how the Russian family starts posting ads in the local newspaper and setting up notes at night. There was no burglary. There is no burglar. In fact, it's the Mr. Ukraine household that's doing the burglary. And here comes the point. A lot of people living in the household of Mr. Trump says, yeah, there was no burglary. But you could walk over to the house of Mr. Ukraine and you can see for yourself, hey, there was a burglar in here. There are facts. But still, people, they believe the burglar's version of this story. And if you take this example, this little story, along with, I don't know, dozens of other similar incidents, maybe you can understand why people are starting to be a tiny bit upset with this way of thinking. So, I hope this helps explain why people are not liking the way things are right now. Okay. See you later, guys. Bye.